All right, this is my adaptation presentation on Megaponera Analis, which is a type of ant found in sub-Saharan Africa. They're known as rescue ants, and I took Major Vandrish's um, little trick here and got some ants up on the screen behind me. So first off, with a little background in history, they're found in sub-Saharan Africa, abundance. They're really widely distributed, can be found in ton of places around there. Named after the Matabele tribe, known for their fierce battle strategy. They're within the subfamily Poneraini, which is a large category of ants that tend to be on the bigger side, respectively. There's 5 recognized subspecies, and they live in subterranean nests nearby trees, rocks, and abandoned termite hills. And the big highlight here is that they primarily rely on termites for feeding. All right, so average size tends to be about 20 millimeters or 0.79 inches, and they have 3 common morphologies: the minor worker, major worker, and the queen. They range in size from 5 to 20 millimeters, but tend to be on the larger end of that. So these specific ants are well known for their ability to battle termites and prey on these termites, and so they're well known for their column-like attack formation when attacking these termites. So these raids occur from about 6 in the morning to 10 in the morning, and then later in another window from 3 to 7. And they conduct about 3 to 5 raids per day, and each of these raids is about 200 to 500 ants involved, and that's like a full force raid. They have a scout phase in which they send out a bunch of different scout ants, individual ants by themselves, that they can go out about 50 meters from their nest. And then if they find a termite nest that is suitable for attacking, they'll return back to their home nest via a pheromone trail that they leave behind them. And then they will essentially be like, hey guys, we got this nest out here we want to attack. Let's all go. And then that scout ant that found the nest will then guide the rest of the ant colony to the termite nest in an orderly fashion. And this orderly fashion tends to be a column. Once there, they congregate before attacking the nest. They let everybody catch up so they can attack all at once. And then typically they won't re-exploit a termite nest once they have previously raided it. All right, so let's go over some risk mitigating behavioral adaptations that these ants have brought on. So although raids tend to be largely effective, these ants incur some casualties. So this goes back to one of the topics we talked about in class, the evolutionary arms race. So termites, more specifically, this species, which I'm not great at saying, develop their own defense mechanisms to the attacks of this ant. And so they've developed a specifically a fighting caste within their nests that have a little bit more built up mandibles and a harder head for fighting and fighting off these ants. And so what results is these ants these termites tend to inflict a little bit more damage on the ants when they attack them. So what results is a rescue behavior in which the ants will pick up and carry back to their home nest any of these injured ants that might have become casualties during the raids that they have on these termite nests. So there's been a little bit of research conducted on this by this group of scientists, and they basically, the researchers were looking to conduct this study to further prove that the rescue behavior is not out of empathy, but individual gain for the ants, helping behavior convergently evolved via different triggers. So obviously a whole bunch of different species exhibit helping behaviors, but the methods in which those are triggered are significantly different. For example, humans feel empathy for other humans and therefore help, whereas those are not exactly the same things that ants feel, and so they have different triggers to show this helping behavior. So the study carried out to find an adaptive value to the colony. So what is the colony gain from showing this, this behavior? General findings from the study: on an average rate, about a median of 3 plus or minus 2.9 ants are carried back. This was over the course of 53 raids, and 154 carried ants occurred on these 53 raids. As you can see, the average size of the raid was about 416 plus or minus 153 ants per raid. 9 to 15 ants carried back per day, which is about accurate for the 3 to 5 raids per day that happened. About 11% of these raids had no carried ants, so either two situations happened, just no ants were injured, and then in another one, they just didn't have any interaction with termites. The scientists also found that dimethyl disulfide and dimethyl trisulfide were a common chemical in searching for a pheromone trigger to incite these ants to pick up some of their fallen comrades and bring them back to the home nest. So both of those chemicals are found in the mandibular gland. They're not related to stridulation, which is a common help trigger in insects. So figure number 1 included in this is basically the type of injury frequencies and how handicapping the injured ants were. So as we can see here, about 20% of the injured ants had lost limbs, and then or the carried ants, and then about, let's say, 45% of the ants had a termite clinging onto them. So a termite had bitten onto them and they could no longer walk because of said termite. And then about 22% of the carried individuals were just unharmed, but for some reason weren't walking, so somebody came and picked them up and brought them back home. Pretty sweet. As you can see over to the right on part B, termite clinging. So termite, again, on the ant slows them down a lot. So they're basically not going to be able to get back, and they'll be more susceptible to predation on their way back. Once again, one of the main reasons that these ants move in a column is because it's efficient to get from point A to point B, but it also helps against predation. When they move in masses, they're harder to target. This is figure 2. So this is mortality and predation of injured and handicapped individuals if not rescued. So termite clinging, they accounted for about 40 or about 50% of the dead ants that were found, as well as about 25% were lost limbed, unharmed, and healthy. So again, these are dead ants that did not end up making it back to the home nest, weren't picked up. A few more figures here. The speed of injured ants at different times after injury. So as you can see, the speed of a fresh injured ant is pretty slow. About 24 hours later, it's a little bit faster, and then healthy, it's gotten a little bit better. So this shows that the ants are able to regenerate some sort of the previous ability that they had after being handicapped. Figure 4 is distribution of long-term injuries in different size classes. So as you can see here, looks like the majority of ants that get injured are intermediate or minor, so not the major ant morphology. So the smaller ants are the ones that get injured. Final figure here, behavioral responses of helper ants toward different treatments or of injured individual or dummies. So essentially, this is just breaking down the percentage of ants that were helped. And so, for example, if we look at part A, we can see that little to absolutely no foreign ants were helped. So they were resistant to help any ants that didn't belong to their nest, as well as dead. There was no point they saw no point in bringing back any dead, but they did bring back a bunch of injured. And it's also good to point out in part B, it shows that they didn't pick them up when they were on their way out, but they waited until they were done hunting and returning back to the home nest before picking up injured ants that had gotten injured along the way. That's artificially, that was done by the scientists. And then the part D shows that there's a good correlation between DMDS and DMTS being involved in the ants that were helped. So some conclusions here. Ants did not stop for artificially injured nestmates on the way to the termite hunting grounds. Just talked about that. Injured ants upon return were able to regain the ability to run through recovery. Awesome. Nearly all ants rescued were observed in further raids with little to no impediment to their ability to fully participate in further raids. And then so the benefit of bringing back individuals to the nest must outweigh the cost for them to develop this behavior. So turns out these ants have a pretty small turnover rate for their population. So about 13 births a day in the average population, which is very small. And so basically what that means is in order to keep their population stable, they need to be bringing back these people, and they can't be, or these ants, and not letting them be injured. So, and that also means they're invested in their recovery. So a relatively slow population turnover, and that acts as the primary driver for this helping behavior. So we're excited, and that's all I got for you guys. So hope you enjoyed.